Hello, hi.
Good. Sorry, I have a weird setup and my
No
camera is
problem.
here, and so
Not a
it
problem.
looks like I'm not looking you in the eye, but I kind of.
No problem. So I just wanted to say before I get into questions and stuff, I just wanted to say thank you for doing this, for agreeing to do this with me.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
yeah, and I'm super excited to talk about this. I've actually had your app for a while. Um, yeah, so I'm excited to ask you some questions about it.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess we can start if you're okay with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I guess my
And
first,
tell me a little bit more just about the backdrop of
yeah,
it
no
and
problem.
like what what's the purpose or where you're going to
Mhm.
use it, or is it more just a school exercise or how?
Yeah, so I'm actually just writing a short feature assignment for school, so it's just going to be it's for practice.
Mhm.
And basically, what we were assigned to do is to find one thing that we found was really useful for us or life changing for this time during the pandemic. So I
Mhm.
actually chose to write about meditation apps and mindfulness and how that's helped me with my anxiety with
Yeah.
everything going on right now. So that's kind of the focus of what I'm like.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the first question I just want to ask, what was the development process like? How did this come about? And yeah.
Yeah, well, so it actually started 20 years ago, if you want the whole story. So we're two co-founders. My
Mm-hmm.
partner, Jamie, was an investment banker initially working in New York, highly stressed. And she met a Tibetan Buddhist Lama who kind of taught her how to meditate. And that
Yeah.
was, 20 plus years ago. And it was so transformative for her that she decided to quit her job and to work with him to bring the skills of mindfulness and meditation to to underserved communities and in particular teenagers in LA and San Francisco. So she did that through after school workshops in middle school and high school through a nonprofit that was called Tools for Peace. So this was way before mindfulness and meditation were trendy and popular like
Mm-hmm.
they are now. And in the process of that, she realized that it really was having an incredible impact on the kids she was working with. And she wanted a way to scale that. And so she decided to create an app. And she bootstrapped it through the donations of her nonprofit and created the kind of the V1, like super bare bone app called Stop, Breathe, and Think in 2013. And she did that with an outsourced agency, like freelancers, like on a total shoestring budget. And the app just took off. It just had this great grassroots momentum. The space of mindfulness was really booming or starting to really grow rapidly. And she realized she had something really special. And it was hard for her to fund it and to develop it to its full potential in a nonprofit context because her nonprofit is pretty small, and it was just hard for her to really raise enough money to do what she wanted to do with the app. So she decided to take it out of the nonprofit, make it a for-profit, needed a business partner, and that's how she and I partnered. I have a lot of experience in the tech space. I worked at Yahoo and a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
other companies in the kind of digital space. So I became the CEO for the company, and she and I just became co-founders of the new entity, Stop, Breathe, and Think, in 2000 at the end of 2015. And we started fundraising, developing the app further, creating a lot more content, creating a lot more features. And so over the last 5 years, we just developed the app more. And the process of development was understanding what our users wanted. A lot of it was they wanted more content. And so giving that to them under a subscription. Obviously, we had to build a revenue model. So we kind of built the subscription layer. And just figured out like what features they wanted and kind of developed it that way. And then after 5 years of running it as a standalone startup, we got acquired by Meredith. I don't know how familiar you are with Meredith, but they are the biggest magazine publisher in the US. They own People Magazine and Real Simple, Martha Stewart, Health, Shape, etc. And so they acquired us at the end of 2019. So we've been working with them now for the last year. And that's how we rebranded to MyLife. So from Stop, Breathe, and Think to MyLife, to have a brand that was a little broader and more memorable. And yeah, that's the long story.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. I was actually, this is not something that I planned to ask, but I was actually curious about how you get like the people who do the like meditations and stuff. Like, how do you get the different, I guess, instructors?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jamie, my partner, she's a mindfulness teacher and has been teaching for 20 years. So a lot of the initially, again, when she did it, bootstrapped it in the nonprofit, she recorded, scripted and recorded all of the initial meditations, and she still does a lot of the audio. But then, we've since kind of built a network of different narrators and teachers who we've met through, different avenues. I mean, we've, really put a lot of emphasis on having a diverse set of narrators. So we've reached out to folks who we knew were, mindfulness teachers in specific areas that, could bring a different voice to what we had, and reached out to them. And, some of it, again, was just through our network and Jamie's network in particular. And in some instances, we reached out very specifically because we liked the work that they were doing, and we wanted them to participate in what we were doing. And then, we kind of contract with them and develop content together.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was also wondering if there were any like challenges that you faced while developing this app, and just how, I guess you kind of touched on it a little bit, but with some of the issues that could have came up or did come up.
Yeah, I mean, well, there are a few different challenges. I mean, I think the challenge of fundraising and being able to find the investments to develop the app at a time where it wasn't making, enough money. We weren't making enough money to sustain ourselves on our own. So we had to kind of find funding through different avenues. And that was definitely a challenge, and something that took a lot of work and time, but we were able to find the right partners to help us develop the app. I think what is always difficult with an app, like, people really love like the simplicity of our emotional check-in, and at the same time, we need to kind of grow the app and develop it further to add new features so that it becomes something that's richer, and where people, if they use it for a long time, they can find new things, and we continue to evolve it. Like, we don't want to be stagnant, but balancing adding new features and new content while keeping that kind of that really elegant simplicity and very accessible user interface is always a bit of a challenge, especially in an app format where you just don't have a lot of space. So I think that's always been a little bit challenging. And then I'd say the third, potential challenge is our roots are nonprofit. It's very important for us to, we're very mission driven as a company. And so it's very important for us to have the basics, like the foundational content and features, free, so that even people who can't afford the subscription can still, experience some of the benefits of what we have to offer. And finding that right balance where we're still building a business and sustainable, business, while providing that service to everyone is something that, we've had to kind of wrestle with at times to find that right level.
I was also wondering if, did you have a particular goal or audience that you were trying to achieve? I know that you mentioned teenagers or youth. Is that still the same audience now, or is it, has it broadened out?
Yeah, it's interesting because, the app was initially created as a companion app to the workshops that were being done in middle school and high school. So initially it was really with that audience in mind. But what Jamie saw very quickly early on was that the app kind of connected with a much broader audience than that. And I think the playfulness and the simplicity of some of the language actually ended up connecting with a broader audience than just that teen audience. And also it kind of, it just felt very, I think, different than maybe some of the existing mindfulness content and experiences that maybe sometimes feel a little more elitist, a little more like, hey, it's a little more exclusive, I guess. And so, yeah, so I think the audience today, I mean, we have, you know, we have folks of all ages. Our core audience is really 25 to 45. But we have a lot of, you know, 18 to 25. We have, you know, folks who are, you know, in their 70s using the product. So it's become much broader.
I was also, oh, did you have any, like, so, yeah, the audience is definitely broadened out. What's your, like, I guess you would say the goal here for the app in terms of like just the service that you're trying to give, I guess. Like, I'm trying to frame this because it's like off the top question. I guess.
Yeah, I think what you're asking is kind of what's the vision for the
vision
like
for
where do we want to go? Yeah, so you know we want to be the leading kind of personalized wellness, you know, solution for people. You know, we want to broaden the spectrum a little bit of what we offer. We started with meditation, but now we have guided journaling, we have acupressure, we've just added movement, but always with the lens of like, how can we help people create a habit of taking care of their emotional well-being? But that can take many forms, not just meditation. And so being the leader in that space and really with that personalized approach is really the vision for us. And that's where we're developing a lot of our new features and content to kind of broaden the types of activities that we offer, and also improving the personalization component so that it really feels like it's really tailored to your needs and your emotions.
Yeah. And how was the overall response to the app? And did you receive the response that you were hoping for?
Yeah, I mean, we've always had really positive feedback on the app since really the inception. I think people really love, again, the emotional check-in. It feels very relatable. It takes kind of the intimidation out of the process of meditating. So we have great reviews. We have like over 20,000 5-star reviews. So yeah, I mean, I think we're really blessed there in terms of people's, you know, their reaction to the app. And I think we've been lucky to continue having very positive responses despite having the app change quite a bit over time. But I think, you know, it looks like people have appreciated the enhancements, not seen them as, you know, changes that they didn't want to see.
And was there anything specifically that inspired you to begin developing the app?
I mean, again, the app was kind of there when I partnered with Jamie, at least the kernel of it. I think for me, what was motivating is, I mean, I had been, you know, an executive in big companies for, you know, 18 plus years. And I was a little burned out, and I really wanted to do something where I felt like it was having an impact and something that I could relate to as an individual. And I've always been really interested in everything that is around the mind. You know, I've done a lot of therapy for myself, for my kids. So I know that there are tools that people can use, yet I think people don't spend the time or don't think that's for them. So I loved the accessibility that we offered. And for me, that was the motivation, like feeling like I'm doing something that has a positive impact. And also, you know, because of the DNA of the company and its kind of nonprofit roots, we're also, we haven't talked about it, you know, in this interview, but we've developed a product for schools that's called MyLife for Schools. That's specifically for middle school and high school that we launched very recently, but to really help teachers and educators implement kind of a habit of emotional wellness and social emotional learning in the classroom under 10 minutes, you know, so that the students can do what you do with the app, and the teachers can get a sense for how their student body is feeling. And I think in the, you know, with the remote learning right now, it's even more important for these educators to figure out, to have a pulse on kids and how they're feeling. And so that's very rewarding to be able to work on stuff like that. I mean, I'm a mom myself, and so I think that's been, you know, the motivation all along is we know this works, and how can we make it as accessible and relatable so that people spend the 10 minutes a day doing it because we know that it'll make them feel better.
Yeah, accessibility is definitely super important and is amazing with this app. Um, and in what ways can mindfulness on the use of MyLife be beneficial in coping with anxiety and other mental health challenges, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of research, over the last couple of years to show the benefits of mindfulness and meditation on stress management, on anxiety management. We about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago published a study that showed that after just 10 sessions with the app, users were 82% more likely to not select anxiety-related emotions. So, we've seen it kind of in the numbers. We've also seen it obviously anecdotally, like we have so many users who say, that we've helped them from anxiety to PTSD and everything in between. And Jamie would be a better, would give the more kind of the better explanation on how exactly it works. But at the essence of mindfulness is to train your mind to kind of rest, to not get caught up in thoughts, in a way that's negative, to find that quiet place on a regular basis. And the more you train your mind to do that, the easier it becomes, and the more you can kind of gain perspective. And even just, it's interesting because just the emotional check-in, like just the fact of taking a step back and labeling your emotions is already a step towards feeling better, because you're not slave to your emotions. When you do that, you already kind of are more in an observer seat. And this notion that you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, that, emotions come and go, and you just have to figure out how to, again, take a step back and not get caught up in them. And the notion that you can actually learn that, like you learn how to do push-ups, is pretty freeing. I think, we often kind of have this notion that, there's some little dictator in our head and we have no control over it. And it's like, it's completely, I think for me as a newbie to meditation, when I met Jamie, that notion that, no, it's trainable. There are things you can do, the stressors will come. You're not going to eliminate the stressors. The stressors are there. It's really how you are able to react to the stressors, how quickly you can get back to a point of being grounded and kind of build that resilience. And a lot of it, and a lot of the mindfulness and meditation, practices are around stepping back, observing rather than being caught in the flow of thoughts, really focusing on things that are more tactile, right? Like when you do a body scan, or when you're focusing on your breath. And those are kind of anchors that allow you to kind of take a step back from like sometimes the chaos or the craziness of your thoughts and feelings. And so doing that on a regular basis, we often say like, it's less about, like, you don't need to spend 20 minutes meditating once a week, but if you spend 3 to 5 minutes every day, that's actually a lot better. And it's really that consistency and regularly giving your mind a break and practicing these things is really important. I think especially in these times of really like intense change, where you can't plan for anything, there's just so much uncertainty. Also, there are a lot of practices in the app that are around being grateful and focusing on, and it's not like we're painting everything with a rosy paintbrush, but just like continuing to be grounded in the things that you can be grateful for, and kind of training your mind also to kind of not dwell too much in the things that you can't control and you can't change, is also really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess my final question would be, how do you think MyLife or similar apps can be important now amid the major crisis, the COVID-19 crisis that we're all in right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's obviously increased, anxiety and stress. There's no question about that. And so I think we help people cope with that and build resilience. But I also think that in some way, these events have kind of brought a little bit more in the spotlight, like the uncertainty of just the world. And again, I think we can't really control that, but finding ways to navigate those uncertain times, I think people need that, because you know, I'm not sure that's going to change radically. You know, I think we are kind of a little bit entering a, you know, phase that's a little bit maybe more chaotic, more uncertain. And I think what's been good is that there were already, like, some of the stigmas were kind of breaking around mental health, and acknowledging your vulnerabilities, or acknowledging that you're stressed. I feel like with COVID, it's like, it's totally acceptable. Like, everybody is like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I'm burned out, or I'm stressed, or and it's become a lot more acceptable. And I think with that acceptance, being able to find solutions and look for solutions and ask around for what, you know, and having a dialogue has become a lot more acceptable. And I think that's where we also have a role to play, because we are that kind of accessible tool that can be a great gateway to building an emotional wellness habit. And I think, you know, there's both like a growing need because of all the circumstances, but I think a growing acceptance that this is something people need to focus on, and it's okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That's very, very interesting. Yeah, that's everything that I have to ask. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course. How long have you been using the app for?
I think I've had it for about a year now.
Yeah. How did you learn about it?
I learned about it through one of my therapists, actually. Yeah, they recommended it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a subscriber?
I don't know. I think so. Maybe.
Well, send me are you using the email that you emailed me with? Is that the account you have? Is that under that email?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check. I think it's a different email though. It might be my personal email.
Okay. Well, if you want, send me the email. I can check if you're a subscriber, and if you're not, I can upgrade you. I'd love for you to.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you so much.
App if yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Of course.
So yeah, that's everything. Thank you for.
Yeah. Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Take care.
Awesome.
Bye.